There are no shortcuts to getting highly coveted press coverage for your brand, only smart cuts like the DIY PR project. Learn how to grow your brand's credibility with PR on a budget with me by your side. This program is your all-in-one membership with expert training, customizable templates, and a supportive community to cheer you on every step of the way. Join us and start growing your business with free publicity today. Sign up now at diy-pr.com. For women, including entrepreneurs, that time of the month when we're on our periods can feel impossible to manage while we're trying to show up in our business and our life. But what if your period didn't have to slow you down? In this episode of Grow Your Wealth, Amy Gaston, VP of Strategic Growth at OhmBody, shares how their new groundbreaking wearable neurostimulation device is giving women the power to make their periods shorter, lighter, and more comfortable with no pills and no hormones, really giving women better options to better manage their menstrual cycles naturally. We dive into how OhmBody's drug-free, science-backed approach is helping women reclaim their time and energy. And Amy also unpacks the economic cost of ignoring menstrual health. Spoiler alert, billions of dollars are lost every year, and why we need to normalize this conversation. If your period has ever felt like it might be getting in the way of your purpose, this episode will remind you that better solutions are not only possible, my friends, they are here. I have goosebumps. Are you ready? Here's Amy Gaston of OhmBody. Welcome, Amy Gaston, to the
Hi,
podcast. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Rena. This is so fun.
I am super thrilled, super honored, mostly to share your story. And I know what's to come in this episode because I've had the pleasure of working with you. And everyone, we are in for such a treat. But first of all, let's get to know you a little bit better, Amy. You've had such a dynamic, impactful career. Walk us through your career journey and what does your day-to-day look like now as the new VP of Strategic Growth at OhmBody?
Yeah, I always like to say my career trajectory has been eclectic. I think that's the best way to talk about it. I was really privileged to be a college volleyball player, and I got a degree in political science and thought I wanted to go to law school, as most, I think, millennials at some point in their lives wanted to be. And much to I think, the dismay of my father, I was like, yeah, I think I'm not going to go down that pathway. And so really just began a journey that's been, yeah, I think eclectic. I spent some time coaching at the high school level volleyball in Texas. And in Texas, you have to teach as well. So I've taught history, I've taught outdoor education. So I was like up there teaching angler ed and boater ed and, random things to some really cool kids. But decided that I was kind of tired of 16-year-olds determining my fate. And so had a really great family friend who really encouraged me to consider college athletics and college athletic administration. So that led me to Baylor University, where I got a master's degree in sport management and had the privilege of really watching them rebuild their athletic department after some internal scandals that were pretty public, and saw the exit of some pretty important people in their administration, but then really got to watch some of the most incredible humans and administrators and leaders really rebuild that and rebuild the brand that is Baylor Athletics, and learned a tremendous amount there, and really thought I wanted to be a college athletic director. And so then I transitioned to university in Dallas, University of North Texas, and worked in their athletic marketing department for a while, and really enjoyed it. And just the grind. I worked 7 days a week in the middle of 6 seasons happening all at once, and just a flurry. I like to be busy, as you know that. Like to have a lot of things going at once. Yeah. And so it really fit me. And then I got a call from a gentleman that I had interned for at Baylor. And he became the president at a company called Magnolia. It's this little lifestyle brand out of Waco, Texas, and wanted me to come on and join that staff. I was like, this is weird. I want to be an AD and you sell candles. Why are you calling me? But he's a guy that truly, during my time at Baylor and then subsequently through the years, has just become a great friend, confidant, and mentor. And I just really took a leap and thought, you know what, someday college athletics will still be there if I want to go back to that. But here's an opportunity to join a brand that's really making waves in the lifestyle space and doing a lot of things all at once, which again speaks to my love for all the things. And so I came on and served as the executive assistant to the founders of the company for a time, and then very quickly then transitioned into experiential marketing and really overseeing um, things that drove people to Waco. They have a property that takes up a city block, the famous Silos, if you're familiar with the brand, and was able to really be a part of driving marketing efforts to people coming to visit in Waco. And part of that role was also overseeing the events team. So hosting things like celebrations, bring up the silos, all the way down to like private events for the founders and then for the company's marketing efforts. And so did that for 4 years and really enjoyed it and fell in love with the community that is Waco. My husband and I live here and really just have loved it. And so I left there when I decided I was ready for something different and just like didn't know what that was going to be. But I knew that my role at Magnolia consumed so much of me every single day that I needed a change and I needed to be able to do that without distraction. So I took, what I have dubbed my personal sabbatical. I did that for 7 months and traveled and read, and I have a wonderful husband who was really supportive of that and, got fit. I took up tennis, so I've tennis to become my whole personality, but, did that for a while and then moved into the venture capital space as a chief of staff. I knew this much about venture capital. Nothing, but was so fortunate to be surrounded by partners who were open to me learning, and I really was brought in to create some efficiencies within the company, which was great, and then in my own, kind of words, got a kind of a practical MBA in that moment, right? You're seeing deals being made, and you're sitting in conversations about diligence and EBITDA and things that I, like, literally had to look up on Google because I had zero knowledge of that. But after 14 months, they were making some transitions, so I left there, spent some time consulting. I own a small business in Waco, and so we do event rentals for tabletop, which is really fun. So that's a really fun creative outlet for me, and it continues to thrive. We'll be celebrating our 2-year anniversary in September, so it's really been fun and have done events all over Texas and from weddings all the way down to private events and for some VIP things. We've been really privileged that people seem to like what we're doing there. And then in January, I joined OhmBody, kind of as the face and voice of the brand. We have some incredible founders who really recognize the value of having a female in this seat, and I think there's something really powerful about that. And I think really speaks to their level of advocacy for women and what the female experience is, recognizing that while scientifically they can understand what we go through, they can't personally do that. And so they wanted to have someone who could do that for them. So yeah, as the VP of strategic growth, I oversee PR. So that's how you and I are connected. And your incredible firm have helped us so much so far. And then I oversee sort of our influencer efforts. We do some of that in-house. And then I also oversee partnerships, both from a brand perspective, so aligning with conversationalists who make sense for us and who are also in the business of trying to destigmatize conversations around menstrual care and menstrual health. And then also retail partnerships. So eventually we want to be in spaces that are more than just from our own shopping platform, but really being in spaces where to meet women exactly where they are. So I kind of oversee those things currently. And right now, as we have been running towards launch, my day to day, again, I think eclectic is the right way to put it. We can jump from partnership conversations to research partnerships. We have an incredible in-house clinical research team, and so they've been really open to opportunities for us in some spaces that we think could be really valuable to us. So a lot of long game, but then a lot of immediate things. We're a small and mighty marketing team, and sometimes we jump in and I review blogs and I help write creative briefs and, just whatever needs to happen for us to get going when you're a startup with a small team.
Yeah, definitely sounds like startup life, and I love that you said that your background is eclectic. It sounds like it, but also it makes sense to me, right? Like sports to events, lifestyle, VC, and now women's health.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about OhmBody. This is a new brand, so if you haven't heard of OhmBody, that's not unusual yet. Of course, we're working on that. But tell us, what is OhmBody and what is your target consumer expected to get out of this new brand and the product that you're releasing in July 2025?
Yeah. So OhmBody is the women's wellness division of a parent company called Spark Biomedicals. Spark has been around since 2018 and really focuses on the utilization of neurostimulation to address a myriad of human conditions. And so we're just one branch of that. So OhmBody specifically as a brand is focused on menstrual health and menstrual care. And so through the use of neurostimulation of both the vagus and trigeminal nerves. Vagus nerve, right? Everyone knows about it. It's like the nerve that touches all the things. It's the wanderer, touches every major organ. Everyone wants to know, how do I optimize my vagus nerve right now, right? It's like all over the news. So by utilizing that and your trigeminal nerve, which is a little lesser known nerve, but really focuses on pain management. So that's really where that sort of its superpower lies. So through the stimulation of both of those nerves, we're going to help women experience an easier menstrual cycle. So our clinical research has shown some pretty significant results around specifically blood reduction. So blood loss reduction during menstruation. So our clinical research has shown on average a reduction of 55% for our participants. And so if you think about that, these are in our study, our women are heavy menstrual bleeders. So either they're idiopathic heavy menstrual bleeders, meaning they don't have a clinical diagnosis as to why they bleed heavily, or they were patients that had a disease called von Willebrand disease. And this is a bleeding disorder that oftentimes women can lose up to a liter of blood every menstrual cycle. So as women, we only have 4 to 4.5 liters of blood in our body, pending the size of the human. And so thinking about losing a quarter of your blood every month, that is, the health implications of that alone are just so significant on top of just lifestyle, right? So now I'm stuck at home. I can't go to work. I can't be involved with my kids. I'm laid up in bed. And so our device has clinically proven to help reduce the amount of blood loss, which is really interesting. And so we do that through stimulating the spleen down the vagus nerve. So we're going to send really low pulses of stimulation down to your spleen. The spleen is where you hold these little things called platelets. Platelets are designed to help your body clot. So when you cut your finger and you stop bleeding, that's because platelets did their job. They showed up, they created a thrombin, they stopped your bleeding, and you don't bleed out from a cut on your finger. And so the same happens when your uterine wall sheds, right? So you're shedding, and that's creating openings and injuries. And so your body, in response to that, sends platelets to help clot to keep you from bleeding out. Some people do that more efficiently than others. What we do is we signal to the spleen and those platelets and say, hey, we're going to pre-prime you so that when the body tells you it's time to create a clot, you're going to show up to that location and you're going to do that and hold faster, stronger, and hold longer. We're not creating clots. We're not throwing clots. We're not making you clot. We're just telling your body, hey, when you show up, you're going to be ready to do that really, really well. So that's the one side of what we do at OhmBody. The other side is through neurostimulation, again, of your trigeminal and your vagus nerves. We're actually going to balance your autonomic nervous system. So part of the reason that you feel like crap during your period is because your autonomic nervous system is out of sync. Your sympathetic tones, which are the fight or flight tones of your body and your nervous system, go into overdrive, right? Because right now, when you're shedding your uterine wall, that's a traumatic experience for your body, right? We don't really think about that. And a lot, like you talk to men, they're like, oh, it's like a nosebleed. I'm like, no, it's like much more akin to you like chopping your arm off and you just like gushing blood out, right? Like it's not a nosebleed. Like we need to establish it is not a nosebleed. And so your body, right, then sends resources. So if you cut your arm off, your body's going to send resources to save you. It's the same when you have shedding of your uterine wall. Your body's going to send resources to help you manage and go through that. And in that, it goes into fight or flight. You are in stress mode, right? And so that's why you don't feel great. That's why you have blood restriction there. That's why you crave carbs and sugar, because your body's utilizing energy and it needs more. And so it's craving those things. And so with our technology, what we do is we actually level up your parasympathetic tones, which is your rest and relax tones. And so by doing that and by bringing that into balance, your body is still going to menstruate. You're still going to bleed. You're still going to do the process that your body needs to do because that is natural for us and that's necessary for us, our bodies to function the way they do. But we're not going to stop that. What we're going to do is we're going to say, hey, body, you're good. and you're going to be supported, and we're going to do that in a restful tone. And so we begin to balance these tones out so that we see in our clinical patients a reduction in cramping, bloating, gastric upset, mood swings, anxiety, cravings, right? Sleeplessness, all of those we had significant reductions in those. But really, and really for each patient, a variance, right? Some women had a significant blood loss, but maybe less cramping reduction. Some had a significant cramping reduction, but maybe didn't need as much blood loss because they don't lose as much, because there's a normal amount of blood loss that you need, right? So those kind of varied from patient to patient. But across the board, we saw significant increase in quality of life scores, which is really what's important, right? We all want to live better lives. And during our period as women, we're told, well, once a month, it's just normal for you to feel like crap and you're just going to have to deal with it. And at OhmBody, we refuse to believe that. It's just not. Our tagline is because life doesn't stop when you start. And we truly believe that women deserve options that allow them to manage something that happens to them naturally, but to do that on their own terms and do that non-hormonally, non-invasively, and without side effects. And we just think it's about time women deserve that, right?
Oh my God. Absolutely. And just kind of thinking to myself, like exactly as you said, Amy, a minute ago, like, women are, for many things, right, are just told to suck it up. It's
Oh my
once a
God.
month, right? But like once a month for a week, some women even longer than that. I mean,
Yes.
some shorter, yes, of course, too. But you're also
Yeah.
talking about shortening the amount of time that you're
Yeah.
then menstruating, right? So just in terms of things like productivity or showing up for yourself and for your family too, this could have huge implications, right?
Huge implications. And to your point, it's this idea that, like, I always laugh, and I hope this is appropriate to say, but I always laugh and say, if men bled from their penises once a month, we would already have a cure, right? Like, that would already be solved, and it wouldn't be a thing, because I promise you, men are not going to be like, yeah, it's fine, I bleed once a month, and it disrupts my life, right? But as women, to your point, we've been told this is just a part of being a woman, and I remember being told that, like, cramps are normal, bleeding is normal. Yeah, it sucks. Even I found myself, my niece is 13 and she just started menstruating. She was like, "Why does it just show up?" Like, right, as a 13-year-old, she's like, "I don't understand why. How could it just show up? Like, it's uninvited." And I found myself, and I had to catch myself, because what I wanted to say was, "Yeah, girl, welcome to being a girl." And I didn't want to give her that as a response. I was like, she deserves a better response.
It's just like it always has been that way, right?
Yes.
It's just the way that it is, right?
Yeah.
But I think for so many women, especially that are listening, since most of the people that listen, we've tracked our women.
Mhm.
Guests that we've had are women as well too. We've all been there. Even if, like, I'm someone who my menstrual cycles, it's very regular. It shows up when it's supposed to, and I don't love it, Amy. Right? It's like
Sure.
pop
I mean,
the through ibuprofen, but it's like the other things as well too, like the sleeplessness in particular
mhm.
can sometimes sabotage my
Yeah.
next day, right? Because I'm like, I was an insomniac, and like I don't get to, just cancel all my calls and like have
Yeah, and you're a mom, and, yeah, like, you have things to do. We have things to do.
but
Yes.
now we have options.
Yeah.
It's incredible, right? Like if you don't want to use it, you don't have to. But the fact that this is an option for you is
Mhm.
amazing. Without
No hormones.
and
Yeah.
no hormones.
And non-invasive, so it's our application are 2, electrode pads that have this sticky medical grade adhesive on it. They stick on the outside it's kinda hard to see with my, headphones on, but on either side of your ear, and it's non-penetrative. So there's nothing that's poking into you, there's nothing you have to, like, stick into yourself. It literally just sits, on your skin, and then we're gonna stimulate through your skin to trigger the auricular branches, so the branches around your ear of those 2 nerves, through a really low pulse, no pain stimulation. So the frequency of, like, how deep it goes, how often it goes, and the pattern it goes is already set. But on the device, every woman can customize the intensity at which she can do that. So on my first day with my own body, I can't go as high because I'm a little sensitive, right? Especially if I'm a little dehydrated, or whatever it might be. Maybe I worked out really hard that day. So that intensity can't be as high. But by day 3, man, I can crank that up a little bit. And the nice part is that our safety features are such that you're never going to turn it up so high that you hurt yourself or cause your muscles to constrict, right? Like, it is the safest of safe, and it's different than a TENS unit. So we get a lot of questions like, well, it sounds like a TENS unit. Why wouldn't I just go on Amazon and buy a $20 TENS unit? because a TENS unit is contraindicated to go above your neck. Like you shouldn't put a TENS unit above your neck because you're going to stimulate your neck muscles, and that's very, very dangerous. Right? So, like, I mean, incredibly, incredibly dangerous. And a TENS unit will go in increments from, like, maybe it's set from 10 to maybe 50 across its voltage. It's gonna jump in increments of 5 to 10. I mean, it's gonna jump in big increments, right? So you feel the intensity a lot faster. And with ours, those increments from, 0 to 4 on ours is like there's like 50 increments in there. They're teeny tiny, and those gains are gonna be small so that it can truly be customized to every individual when she wears it.
That is absolutely amazing, and just to key, right, this is a wearable device, but Amy, do you have to be someone like me who's behind a desk a lot of the day? Can you kinda take it with you on the go?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really have created the smallest, it's smaller than your cell phone, the actual device itself, super portable. The earpiece is very discreet. I've worn it to work out. I've worn it to the grocery store. I wear it to board meetings. I wear it, meeting up with girlfriends if I need to. The nice part is you're not wearing it all day. So really our recommendation is 2 hours. 2 hours should prime your platelets, which is the major part of, blood reduction for us. And then the rest of it is really this idea of helping to balance your nervous system. So some women may say on day one they need a little extra support, so they'll wear it for 4 hours to get the totality of that. We have one graphic designer on our team. She wears the earpiece all day, and then as she needs it, she just plugs it in and gets a little extra support if her cramps come back. So some days she needs it more, some days she doesn't. We have teammates who wear it leading up to their period because that's when their cramping is the worst. So it's really this customizable experience and therapy. And the great part is because there are no systemic side effects, there's literally no negative to wearing it when it's really customized to you. But yeah, it's designed really to be an on the go option, right? There's a lot of period care products for all the good things that they are, but say like rest up, get under a blanket, have some chocolate. And while that's wonderful, and I wish we all had time to do that. I mean, you said yourself, who has time for that? I do not have time for that. I don't even have kids and I don't have time for that, right? So like I truly don't have time on my period, especially to sit under a blanket and just cozy up. On days I want to do that, yes, that's amazing. But when I don't have that option, my own body allows me to continue to get back to being the person I need to be without altering my day to day, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And something else as well too that I think is really standing out to me about OhmBody as well for certain types of devices like this, right? That have a really big promise attached to them, especially with various wellness clinics and spas popping up all over the country. You're really putting the power in the consumer's hand. So a woman can go and just buy it, right? And have it whenever she wants. She doesn't have to make an appointment, which again, who has time for that?
Amen.
Appointment and
Amen.
right? So
Yeah.
that's pretty phenomenal as well too.
Yeah, we love it. And again, it's that customizable treatment that we really love. And so it's we have women, who say like, "Hey, I only use my own body. I have a 5-day period. I only use my own body days 1 through 3 because that's when I need support. And the rest of the days I actually don't bleed very much and, I only spot or whatever it is, then don't wear it." Like it's not a you must do it and this is how you do it and you have to wear it all day long. So that's what we love about it.
I love it. I can see myself using it leading up to, right?
Yes.
It's when they say it's a week or however long you're actually bleeding for, it's longer than that. Like
Sure.
one when leading up to it, it's
Sure.
off ramping as well too. So
Absolutely.
that all really makes sense as well. One of the things that I just keep thinking about too, Amy, is just this is amazing, don't get me wrong, but the fact that it's only happening now in
Yeah.
2025,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. Totally.
So those of us that might be also kind of thinking the same way, what are we missing out on failing to invest in solutions that serve women's bodies better? Because I sure hope that every woman will have an own body. But to get to this point even, right, is
Yeah.
that like we have options as women going forward. I mean, this is pretty revolutionary.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been thinking a lot about this question as you sent them ahead of time to me, and I think that what's wild to me is why would we not invest in technology and advancements for half the world's population?
Mm.
I mean, truly, it's not like we're a quarter of the population. Not that that would make us any less, but literally, we're half the world's population, and it has taken to this point for women to real or for people, not even women, but investors and researchers and clinicians and doctors to say, "Oh yeah, women are not small men." Right? Like that
Yeah.
it's like a aha moment to people, and I'm like, "Wait, I've never been a man. I don't have the same parts he has. I don't experience life the way he does. My body can birth an entire human. A man cannot do that." So to say that we as women are just small men, I mean, that's been a miss. The fact that the FDA didn't even allow testing on women until 1994, that's wild. And so that means, Rena, the birth control you and I were on as teenagers, and even to date, we're tested on white middle-aged men. You tell me how white middle-aged men should be the reason that I'm putting hormones in my body, right? And we were a part of a generation that like that stuff was being handed out like candy, right? If I had heavy cramps or I had acne or I had fill in the blank of a problem, an OB was like, "Yeah, here's some birth control, right? Pop a pill once a day and here's this tiny thing." And without really, and I don't blame those doctors. I think they were doing exactly what their medical practice, and education had taught them to do. But I mean, what a tremendous burden now that that's been put on our generation of, infertility issues and the inability to transition into perimenopause well or menopause well. Like there's just these implications, right? That like was not deeply studied and again not studied on women and yet given to 15-year-olds. I mean, I have friends who've been on the pill since they were 14. That's a really long time. And now, as they were transitioning into trying to have babies and start a family, like they have significant fertility issues. And I just can't be convinced that there's not some sort of correlation to how young we were when we were put on this pill. And so as we look at like your question of like, what are we missing? By not investing in half the world's population, we actually put a tremendous burden on I read an article today about the burden on the healthcare system, the burden on the economy, right? When we're not investing in what essentially is half the world's workforce, we're not supporting them through that. And eventually that costs economies and countries billions of dollars in healthcare and billions in dollars in lost revenue, opportunity, and productivity because we're not investing in people, literally, simply because they're women. And it's harder, right? So there's a lot of I've learned a ton in this role, and we have an incredible chief science officer, Dr. Kadopoulos, and he has really been enlightening me on how challenging it is to have, you know, certain exclusions and certain indicators of like it's harder to test on women, right? Because now you have to factor in their hormones, you have to factor in this, you have to factor in this when you don't have to do that with men. So it makes an easier path forward in research if you just use men, right? And so now as we're having to, kind of deepen into this, it is harder and it does take more of an effort, but that effort is so worth it if we'll continue. And we are, and I want to say, we are in an upward trajectory. There's more money than ever that's being invested. There's more focus than ever. Being put on women's health. And I'm so thankful that OhmBody is a place that is leading some of that charge and really on the, on the front end of that. And we're so proud of that with real science, right? Because there's a lot of pseudoscience in women's wellness and a lot of hooky things out there that aren't real. And so it's really important to us that our science is clinically backed and researched and supported. And we have an incredible internal research medical board that supports all of the things that our clinical team is doing. So we feel really good about that, but man, it's just, and again, the momentum's there, but it's not enough. And it won't be enough until we demand more. And as women, we demand more.
Absolutely. Well, with Own Body, we'll get at least one more week a month, or we can commit
Yes,
to,
that's right.
women's wellness and research and so forth. And speaking of funding, congratulations to you guys in terms of your recent seed round that
Yeah.
conceded, which is amazing too. So
Yeah.
progress is being made.
Yes, it is. And we're so thankful to our investors. The Series A for our parent company with Spark Biomedical. We are so fortunate to have individuals and VC firms who believe in the power of neurostimulation and what Spark Biomedical is doing just holistically, but then really being supportive of kind of this step into women's wellness that kind of happened quickly and very fast. And we're launching in it, but we're just so very, very thankful for them.
Hey there, I want to invite you to join our Grow Your Wealth community over on Slack. It's a safe space to network and connect with podcast guests, entrepreneurs, and wellness minded pros just like you. Head to growyourwealthpodcast.com/community to join us. That's growyourwealthpodcast.com/community. I look forward to seeing you over there. So I actually have a question for you. Speaking of money as well,
Yeah.
too. Um, we all know about the health implications, what menstruating, of course, does to our body, and sort of the ripple effect from there too. You briefly mentioned though the economic implications as
Mm.
well. A lot of women, I've had some work for me as well too, do miss work
Yeah, of
when they
course.
are on their period, right? And thinking about 50% of the world's population, those that are of working age, are we seeing, in terms of the global economics of things, this ripple effect financially as well too, with women missing work because there are no options to,
Yeah.
take the day off, so to speak?
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. So there's some studies out there, and I apologize, I can get you the resource for it. But recent studies that have shown that for women who have excessive symptoms, so have like 2 or 3 symptoms more each month of this, and really suffer and have to miss work. Those women on average miss 8.9 days of work a year. And honestly,
Oh.
I'm of the opinion that that number is probably a lot higher. But when women miss work, oftentimes they're not telling their boss, "Hey, I'm missing because I'm on my period," right? Like nobody's actually really saying that. So how do we really know that? I think that number's probably underrepresented. That's just my opinion. So take that for what it is. But we've done some like really rough calculations in my math. And if we take that 8.9% and take it at the 26 million women who essentially probably fall in that category in the United States, we did some rough math at one point, and we're looking at like 40 billion plus dollars of economic productivity lost a year in the United States alone. And again, it's hard to say that and account each dollar for that, right? So I don't want to like stick too hard on that, but there's lost productivity that isn't even being accounted for because for so long it's just been so normal for women to miss work for their periods. So it's like this like weird thing that like I'm not even sure businesses realize that that is affecting their productivity costs, right? Like they don't even know because it's not something women talk about. We're not telling our bosses, "Hey, I'm missing because my period, I'm bleeding so much that if I'm away from the toilet for more than an hour, I'm going to bleed through my pants, regardless of the methods I'm using to control my bleeding." Right? So that's a real experience for millions of women. I don't know if you know this, but 1 in 3 women suffer from heavy menstrual bleeding. That's that's a greater rate than diabetes or asthma. I mean, that's significant. And so we think, what is heavy menstrual bleeding? If you're bleeding over 80 milliliters per cycle, so that's just over a quarter of cup of blood, you're a heavy menstrual bleeder. And you probably need to be talking to your doctor about that because there's probably an underlying cause to why you're bleeding that much because you shouldn't be. But again, if you grew up in a home where your grandma and your mom and your aunt and your sister all bleed excessively, that's normal to you. And we haven't been trained or taught as women to advocate for ourselves in a doctor's office because often our OBs look at us and go, "Yeah, that's just normal and that's how your body is. Here's a pill, here's some pharma for you. Oh, if it's really bad, offer you an ablation," right? So that the cauterization of your uterine wall, like, and that only lasts 2 to 3 years. So that's not even permanent, by the way. Or if it's really, really bad, in the case of so many women, in the case of my college roommate, a hysterectomy, right? And oftentimes that comes far before they're ready to give up family planning or ready to enter menopause or, any of those things. So, like, really, the options have been so limited. And again, this idea that we've just created a world where women, because we have made conversations around menstruation so taboo, women don't even know what they're experiencing is not healthy. It's not normal. And so you couple that, then you pair that in the business space of women, again, oftentimes CEOs, directors, badass women doing badass things. I don't want to have to look at my male CEO and tell him that I'm menstruating and I hurt so bad and I'm sitting here cramping, but I'm listening to you about your P&L and the strategies, all the things that we do. I mean, fortunate for us, I work in a company where my CEO often knows when I'm menstruating, but that's a little different because that is the nature of what we do. And I'm not sure any other boss I've ever had knows that. And so, shout out to Daniel Powell. And I love that. But I mean, but truly, think about it, right? So if I'm a VP in a male dominated industry and I'm the only skirt in the room, literally, I'm the only one wearing stilettos and a pencil skirt, and I'm looking at a room full of men, oftentimes white men, around a boardroom, the last thing I'm going to do is complain about my bleeding.
Oh,
It's just,
is the door. I don't want to hear.
that's right. Well, this is why we don't hire women. And this is why women shouldn't be in leadership. And this is why, fill it in, right? And so when we tie that back to the economic costs, I think those numbers are just underrepresented. And quite frankly, I'm not sure traditional CEOs care about that just yet. I think they would if they really understood it. And so that therein lies, part of the reason I think what's so beautiful about Spark deciding, our parent company deciding to establish an entire brand as opposed to just a product, is it's really important to us to be a part of this conversation and around normalizing this conversation and around bringing these kinds of topics to the table, because then and only then does change happen. Then and only then do women then feel empowered to go out and find solutions that are right for them. And refusing to say pharma and surgery are my only options if I'm a heavy menstrual bleeder, right? So we want to be a part of that change. And then again, to link arms with other companies that are doing equally incredible things in the space, right? So yeah, that's a long-winded answer to what you just asked me, but there you go.
Well, I so appreciate that. It gets me very fired up.
Yeah, it fires you up, right? As a woman, you're like, wait.
Yes, absolutely. And like just sort of thinking about like how really are biohacking menstruation, which is absolutely phenomenal. And just thinking about all of these companies, how long did it take for them to put like nursing rooms in their
Yes.
office buildings? Like what's a game changer it can be for them if they offered their female employees something like an OhmBody. Of course, it's just in terms of the culture, especially when it comes to women's health and wellness, we live in a sea of like band-aids, temporary
Yes.
solutions, right? Like, or very extreme solutions where it's like surgery, cauterization. Nobody wants any of that, right? And again, options just haven't been as plentiful. We have to be
Yeah.
better about advocating for ourselves. This is also a great opportunity if you are in the C-suite to also consider like how can I empower my team?
Yes.
So, right, this is get in touch with Amy if that's something you're
Yeah, please do. We can talk about a corporate rate. But yes, no, I mean, honestly, like for us, it's just such a, to your point, right? If we can normalize conversations the same way breastfeeding has become very normal, right, in the corporate world, and we do have nursing rooms, I think, but that took a ton of advocacy, tons of groups saying, we're sending women back to work, some because they want to, some because they have to, but they're still having to provide breast milk to their infant that they've left at home, right? Like there's a reason countries in Asia give you a whole year of maternity leave, paid maternity leave, because they know your body, that first year is so vital. So, having that kind of change took years and tons of conversations, tons of women saying enough is enough. And so, again, not just menstruation, but any uniquely female experience, right? It's all because men for so long have run corporate America, and because they have decided on what will and won't be a part of the norms in that space. It's not necessarily a man's fault. He doesn't know. Again, most men think menstruation is a nosebleed, right? Like, unless you're very attuned, you have open conversations with your mom or your sisters or your wife or your partner, you don't know that because you've never experienced that, truly. And so it is hard to think, man, we just got to keep advocating for ourselves. But I would encourage women everywhere to say, yeah, and we deserve that, right? And and if we don't advocate for ourselves, nobody will. So that's my belief.
I could not agree more. I'd love to pivot for just a moment,
Yeah.
or we just have a few more minutes left. Amy, tell us a story from your clinical trials. How has this product really been a huge help to some of the women that have gone through a clinical trial with OhmBody? I'm sure they're still using the product as well too. What is like a before and after for us, if you could illustrate that?
Yeah, we had one of the most impactful stories that I received from one of our phase one clinical trial participants. She has von Willebrand disease. Again, losing up to a liter of blood. She has this bleeding disorder. She told me her story, and I think when I got done, I was like, wow, this is, if we only helped her, it was worth creating this technology. Like truly, truly. She had her first 16-week period at the age of 18. She had 16 weeks. And when she went to, yeah, consecutive, she bled 16 straight weeks. When she went to her doctor, he told her that because she was an athlete, her body was just acclimating and this was normal. I don't know about you, Irina, but I was an athlete and I had 3 periods a year, right? So like to say to someone This is just your body acclimating. That's wild. And at the age of, I think, 2021, she was actually diagnosed with von Willebrand disease. And it was her dentist who found that, which is actually pretty normal. You go, you get a tooth extracted, and they can't get you to stop bleeding. And they're like, this is not normal. You should probably see your doctor, right? So it's actually very common for a dental appointment to lead to a discovery of a bleeding disorder. I didn't know that until this role. So that's when she found out at that. Then through her journey, she's the one that I was talking about who would bleed anywhere between 21 and 28 days. And when I asked her, so like by the time you like finish your period and start your next one, how long are we looking? She said, usually a couple of days, but sometimes just a matter of hours. And I was like, oh, so you're not actually not bleeding. She would bleed through a super pad every hour on the hour. She called herself the Costco pad queen. She keeps a whole closet of just super pads in her home. I mean, so this woman, she's down for the count for 3 days. The first 3 days of her menstrual cycle, she's missing a ton of work. She's a mom, has a partner, right? Like she's a woman trying to live life, but she has this bleeding disorder that really limits her during her menstruation. And so, I mean, truly, I mean, she told heartbreaking stories about bleeding through a bridesmaid's dress at her best friend's wedding and sitting on an airplane and standing up and suddenly there's blood all over the seat, right? So she's telling me these like horrible, horrible, terrible stories. She was in her first phase on her first month or her first week of using OhmBody, her first cycle using OhmBody. She was out of bed on day one. Her son got caught playing a video game he wasn't supposed to be playing because he thought his mom would be in bed all day, which is like, I just love. I was like, yes, ma'am, go back to be a mom. She talked about being out and about, and she had somehow had forgotten a super pad and just had 2 regular pads. And so she like kind of panicked. And so she doubled them up, put one on top of the other. And she was out and about in the house. By the time she got home, she thought, oh, shoot, I've probably bled through both of these. Not only had she not bled through both, she had not bled through one. And this is a woman who's like bleeding every hour on the hour through a super pad. That is a significant change. And for her to hear her talk about it, I asked her what she was most excited about. You know, what are you most excited about OhmBody? And she said, Amy, I'm no longer praying for menopause. Oh. Who prays for menopause? Nobody prays for menopause. But this woman who has suffered her entire adult life through menstruation was like, I would rather be in menopause. I'd rather go with all the symptoms. And we all know all the terrible things that come with me. I'm not looking forward to that, by the way, but all the terrible things. I'm hoping OhmBody has a salt for that by the time I get there. So that's the hope. Come on, clinical team. But yeah, thank you. But I truly, and I looked at her and I thought, that alone is the reason our company exists, because we exist to change women's lives. And again, if we only changed hers, if she's the only woman on the planet who ever used our device, that was worth it. Like that's worth it. And I just think, and what's beautiful is that that's the first time she used it. It's not like it took months for her to see those kinds of results. Day one, she was ready to get up and go. And that is revolutionary. And again, we recognize every woman's going to experience that differently, right? Maybe you're a woman and it relieves some of your cramps or some of your bleeding. And we know that, but we know that this device is poised to really revolutionize the way women are experiencing their menstrual cycle every month.
That is so
Isn't that wild?
That
I know.
is so wild, right? Like going back to what you said earlier as well too, this isn't about a heating pad and eating chocolates and pampering yourselves. Like there are women out there that are truly, I hate to say it, like handicapped based on
Yeah.
something that is just natural for
That's right.
their body.
And they have no control over it. They have no control over it.
Mm-hmm. Right. It makes me feel really bad about even complaining about mine, but that's the thing. It's like there is no, there's no standard as to how you should live, right? Like everybody's going through their own struggles. And if OhmBody is an unlock for you to live a better life so that you're able to really live life, right? Mm-hmm. Versus, being bedridden or someone like me who's just like, I really didn't sleep well this week. And
Yes.
the amount of lost productivity that comes along with that. I mean, I've had guests on this podcast previously who'd also concurred, right? As women, we're just expecting things to be hard and just get a pat on the back and, well, try your best, honey, but you'll never have a level playing field. This literally helps level the playing field. So thank you to you guys for
Oh my
like
gosh.
just an amazing solution.
I'm so honored. I tell this people this a lot. I'm so honored to be able to represent the incredible work that our teams do. We have an in-house clinical team and an in-house R&D team, which is pretty rare for a company our size. And the dedication, the work, and the years of research that have gone into this, I just stand in awe of that team and what they do every day. And truly, they are the heroes of the story in terms of like what they're doing every day. And I just feel really fortunate that I get to talk with people like you and story tell it and explain it and share all the good work that's happening. So.
Thank you for that. And before I let you go, okay, Amy,
Mhm.
a little bit more about you.
Oh
You are
gosh.
one of the most active women that think to know as well. So I know you're doing some own body because, oh my
Yes.
God, right?
Yes.
You're on the road a ton. You are moving your body. It seems like every day you're cold plunging. You're doing all of the things. I want to know, what is your wellness routine? How do you do it?
Oh my
Get some
gosh.
tips and tricks. How does Amy take care of Amy?
Well, it's been a journey to get here for sure. And it's about for me, it was about creating some boundaries of like, this is going to be a priority for me. I just turned 40. So, it's where thank you. So in this idea that I thought, for the next 40 years, I really want to be able to live. Because living is not living unless I'm doing, right? So like I don't want to live to 90 and sit in a chair. I want to
Yeah.
if I only live to 70, but I've lived the wildest life, then that to me is like a life well lived. So, for me, well, one I talked about earlier, I've like become this tennis person. Truly, my whole personality. I play 4 or 5 times a week, 3 or 4 times a week, 4 or 5 if I'm lucky. Play on a team in a league. I've only took it up about 2.5 years ago, but like have joined a team. I'm like, playing in tournaments and just really fun. I'm way too competitive and needed something competitive. So that for sure I do. But yeah, I really make a commitment. I lift 3 days a week. I have a really sweet friend who's a personal trainer and she was kind enough to put some total body workouts for me together for me. So I do that. I also walk 3 to 4 days a week with a weighted vest. Rucking is all the rave right now, and so but I do, and I had knee surgery about 2 years ago, and so running has sort of been taken off the table for me. My ortho was basically like, I mean, tennis is just as bad, so like pick your evil, and I was like, yeah, we'll save it for tennis. So doing that and really just staying moving. I love, somebody will say, "Hey, let's go for a hike." We are so fortunate in Waco. We have Cameron Park. It's beautiful. It's truly one of the most beautiful parks, and it's weird to think about because not everyone thinks about Waco as this like beautiful place. But we'll go for hikes. I love to be on the water. I love to do anything that's active. But yeah, I think for me, it's just a commitment that every day I'm going to move, whatever that might look like. And then for me, I'm not a big dieter. I'm just not. I eat when I'm hungry and I eat the things that are important to me. I try to focus on protein because, perimenopausal women, we're supposed to be consuming, I don't even know how many grams of protein, but, I just try to make good choices, but I don't deny myself some indulgences. My husband made a pan of brownies last night or the other day. And I was like, yeah. And it's just the two of us. We should never make a full pan of brownies in our home, but he does it. And we just shouldn't. But I try not to, I love a good cocktail. I love happy hours with the girls. But I think it's about balance, right? And it's not really about a size. It's not really about, you know, what my body looks like compared to the world. This is the best I have felt since my early 20s. And honestly, it's just because I have decided to prioritize what's important to me. And that's emotional, that's spiritual, physical, relational, from a work perspective. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for that I've had the opportunity to do that. And I've learned a lot of lessons, as we all have. Our 20s and 30s, I think, are about grinding it out and learning and trying to figure it out. And then I really want to enter 40s as like yeah, I'm going to ride the wave of what I've worked really hard to establish here. So that's where I'm at. I don't think there's a secret.
No, I love that. And you've been so generous kind of sharing that and pulling back the curtain because you are someone that I think we would all agree is a very high achieving professional person and sort of unveiling like what really goes into sustaining that, right? Is Let's be real, is also important too. Amy, you're amazing.
Oh my gosh.
OhmBody team, you're doing God's work over there. Thank you so much. Where can people find OhmBody, which is available now?
I know. Just going to ohmbody.com. So www.ohmbody, OhmBody.com. Check us out. All of our research is there. The science is there. You can ask questions there. And then get yourself an OhmBody. I mean, truly. You can also follow us on social. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You can see my face on TikTok, which is weird because I don't even have a TikTok account, but it's so fun. Yeah, find us across social and then engage with us from a community. We'd love to hear from users on what their experience with OhmBody has been.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Amy Gaston, for
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope this episode deposited some useful advice and insights to help you grow your wealth. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future conversations. You can find more resources, episode details, and updates at growyourwealthpodcast.com. And let's keep the conversation going on Instagram. Follow me at Grow Your Wealth Podcast. I'd love to hear your thoughts, questions, or takeaway from today's show. Until next time, remember, burnout is optional. Take care, and I'll see you next week.